Danny, Dr. Sheehan, it looks like you're in a very, very impressive place there, Dr. Sheehan. Oh, you're at work, right? Yeah.
I'm at work.
They made you come in today then, huh?
Yeah, I've got a 1 o'clock bronch. So
a 1 o'clock rock?
bronchoscopy.
Oh. Well,
Did you get your cross country skiing in yesterday like you planned?
I did. Where did I go? I went to Emery Park. Yeah. Very nice. The waterfalls there are frozen over.
Well, the swimming pool down here in Nashville is frozen over. Except for the fountains on this side, which tend to be bubbling underneath. However, our good friend Dr. Geraci, who is an avid skier, is in Ellicottville. And what's your ski depth there? What's your snow depth there, Michael?
But we can still see the grass.
Jeez.
No new snow. But they have a good base. They've made a lot of snow with this cold weather, so we're good. We're going to be good.
That's great. So, hey, we're just going to go around real quick, just do quick intros. I'm Roger Firestein, along with Dr. Gatewood and Dr. Sheehan and Dr. Snyder and Dr. Mishra. About 2.5 years ago, we started sitting around my dining room table talking about creativity in medical education. And I don't know, Dan, if it was you or Robert that said, where's this going? And I said, I'm not quite sure where it's going, but when you get good people sitting around a table doing good stuff happens. So here we are. We eventually grew this with our friends at Wright State University. And so we've had, as you know, stuff on cognitive style. We've had stuff on systems. We've had stuff on all sorts of amazing things. And there is a library of this. So welcome, everyone. Let's just kind of go around real quick. And I'll add an Armin. I'm going to leave you to the last there, and we'll have Dr. Gatewood introduce you. So, Dr. Geraci, just give us a little howdy do there, and 2 words about your wonderful self, dear friend.
Oh, thank you. I'm a physiatrist working in Buffalo for 38 years now. I do all spine and sports medicine, and I love it. I'm down to 2 days a week, which gives me 5 days to ski.
Beautiful. When you can, down in Ellicottville when there's snow. So,
yes.
Hey, we're going to go over to a new friend, Kathleen. Say hello, Kathleen. Turn on your mic and say hello. There we go. Oh, not quite yet there.
There
we go.
Kathleen Turner, thank you for having me. This is my first time, and I'm just a curious, insatiably curious person. So I'm interested to see what I will learn from everybody. Thank you for allowing me to join you.
Thanks, Kathleen. Kathleen and I are working on a project with American Heart Association. Kathleen's in Dallas, and I remain in Nashville. And been here since Tuesday. It's okay. Maybe today. So, Kelly, let's go over to you.
Good morning. My name is Kelly Maas. I am from the University of Rochester, and I am the education manager for our Quality Institute here.
Welcome, Kelly. Good to have you. Great. John, how are you today? Always composed and just ready to go there, John. So
thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is John Krause. I'm a second-year medical student at the University of Buffalo, and I've been exploring large language models and their application in healthcare, and I'm really excited to be here and continue learning. Thank you for having me.
John, thank you. And thank you for your presentation you did recently. That was fantastic. So Dr. Dan Sheehan.
Hi, I'm Dan Sheehan. I'm a pediatric pulmonologist. I also do a lot of work with the medical curriculum at the Jacob School.
Hey, welcome, Dan. Good to see you again. Session went very well yesterday. Thank you for being a part of that.
My pleasure. That was wonderful.
That was great. Cool. Yeah. So, Archana, Dr. Mishra, good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Thrilled to be here. I'm a pulmonary critical care and sleep physician who's been at University at Buffalo, and I've been striving to bring creativity into medicine since I first met Dr. Firestein.
Archana, it's so great to see you. So, Robert, let's go to you, and then if you'd introduce our esteemed guest, that would be wonderful. So, Dr. Gatewood, over to you.
Okay, well, yes, I'm at this point in time, I'm a full-time Bills fan and part-time cardiologist. I also do some volunteer teaching at UB, which I'm really excited about. And like Kathleen, I am a lifelong learner, so I love coming to these and learning new stuff because that's what keeps the juices going. So That's me. And I think, Armin, you're going to introduce our esteemed guest today. Well, you're both esteemed guests. But if you wouldn't mind, I think we're all really looking forward to this. I know I am. So take it away, Armin.
Happy to. And first of all, I just wanted to thank Dr. Sheehan for bringing us in touch with everybody here, because I had no idea you were doing this type of group discussions. So I'm thrilled to be part of it. And I'm Armin St. George. I am the VP of Development at Haya. I've had the pleasure of working alongside of Dr. Gyasi for the last 5 years as he was a co-founder of Haya. He has brought this technology into the healthcare arena and now into med ed. So I look, in the interest of time, I'd like to pass it on to him and let him get started so you can see what we're doing and why we're excited about the possibilities for it in med ed and in healthcare as in general.
Thank you, Stefan.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Armin. And thanks, everyone. And thanks, Firestein, for inviting me to your dining room table.
I love that. Yes.
Yeah, no, me too.
Absolutely.
Trust me, I love being part of this. You know, this is the first time I'm giving this presentation, and it's an hour that I'm not usually used to. So if I misspeak, please have your AI correct me after the fact, not during. But it's a pleasure to be able to share my thoughts with you. So if you don't mind, I was going to share some slides and start from there and give you kind of my journey and background into where we are today. So can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
It's loading.
Yes.
Yes.
Loading. Yes.
It's loading.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, it's kind of a generic talk of how we use technology and try to transform our healthcare and educational space. But before I get started, just a little bit of background about me. I'm an orthopedic trained hand surgeon, 20 plus years in academics. I started at USC and then moved on to UCLA, where I first started working with veteran population. And then being a West Coast person, I kind of played ping pong and went across town to SC again, and then led the hand program there for a good decade. So I've practiced in a variety of healthcare settings, all the way from the VA to the public hospital, to a large level 1 trauma center, to the university, and then in the private practice setting as well. And in that journey, I've had to sit in front of multiple people, whether they're patients, medical students, residents, fellows, nurses, and really try to connect with them and educate them. And I think I've learned a couple of lessons along the way. So that's my story. And for the past 5 years, as Armin mentioned, I've been part of Haya Technologies, which is actually a spinoff of USC's Institute for Creative Technology. That's a DARPA-funded institute in Playa del Rey here, and they still are working on virtual human technology, AI, and its applications to healthcare and beyond. So we did grow out of a creative institute, and Haya is the commercial effort to try to bring those technologies to market and also at scale. That's me, yeah. So John, hold your ears. Don't blink, he'll be... This is me, 1993, a much simpler world. I was very happy because I had a pager. This grew out to be the cell phone eventually, and it took over our minds. And my other tool was this little thing here, which was my cheat sheet, my library card, where I'd go to the library and make photocopies of journals. You know, did have a watch. This is a digital watch. And then a phone, which was on every ward that you walked on. So that was it. Very simple. Not a lot of knowledge base, but simple tools to practice simple type of medicine. And things have changed now. So this is potentially the load I would have if I was a medical student today, if I went to the library to try to check out some books or copy some material. The load is tremendous, to the point where I think it's shut down a lot of our students because they know that the knowledge is on demand. So they don't always bother to go and dig deeper. They want the information presented to them. And I truly feel that the curiosity factor in the younger generations may be what's the best way of saying this? Maybe not as intense as it was during the era that I trained in. And part of that has to do with access to knowledge, and part of it has to do with just overloading the students with the amount of knowledge. By the way, this is AI generated. A lot of these, full disclosure, are AI generated, and they do a pretty good job. You can see it's AI generated because of this misspelling here, on and on, but yeah. This is kind of how I felt when I gave my last med student lecture, and this is pre-pandemic, mind you. This is not in the virtual realm, but essentially half the students that were in the lecture hall were spread throughout. The other half were in front of a TV screen and some cubbyhole somewhere watching the lecture, maybe even recording it and looking at it later. But this was the same arena that I got a lecture from a hand surgeon in the early 90s that inspired me to go into hand surgery. And I was so happy to be able to give that lecture to a new group of students, but I quickly realized that I didn't have the right skills to connect with them. One, I asked questions. Two, I had them sit together. And three, I kind of put them on the spot a little bit. And I know people who trained back in the days where we used to pimp or question our students understand what that means when you put somebody in the spot. In 2024, that's not going to work because the students want the information. They don't want to necessarily be put on the spot in front of their in front of their colleagues, and they just want to get the right answer. So this really is the era that we're in, and it goes beyond that because I think medical education is really today lacking the skills that are essential for successful practice, and that goes beyond the knowledge base. That knowledge base is kind of figured out for the large extent. It goes to communication skills, empathy, and cultural literacy, and those are the skills that have to be developed for the new generation of students in order to be able to connect with their patients and have a successful practice. When we trained, there was little formal education. It was the watch and learn model. So if you were with a really nice attending, you followed them, you learned from them, you emulated them, but we didn't have any feedback, and our patients were too darn scared to ask us any questions. So you can see somebody just coming in and saying something, and the patient just goes, okay, thank you. I have no idea what you're saying. I'll see you maybe in a few years, right, in the ER. So that communication skill has to be fostered, and also the information transfer has to be more streamlined. And this is where we are, you know, I mean, our patients are frantically looking up stuff through Google and Dr. Google from resources we have no idea what they are, TikTok, and then our doctors and our providers and our nurses are now doing a lot of data entry into a system, and the two don't even connect. They're completely disconnected. And how many of you have had calls from patients that say, my MRI report said this, and it's been 3 days and you haven't called me, and what does this mean? And we try to kind of calm them down or bring them back down to earth to try to interpret those scary medical terms. But that's a struggle. That's a real struggle. So this is what happens. We send them onto the world, into this world of misinformation, and then we come back with the false information. We get upset. That's not true. Your reality is not true. I'm the one with the truth. And how do we get ahead of that? How do we amplify our voices to get rid of this strained trust that has developed over the past couple of decades? One way is to offer new tools that actually are useful, allow us to augment and expand our voice and our knowledge base. And by that, I don't mean a better fax machine. I mean new modern tools that really resonate. And I know this group I've looked at the prior talks, they've talked about AI, generative AI, and we'll dig into that a little bit as well, and how that applies to our path moving forward. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about, conversational AI, large language models. I know this group is really, and Dr. Yates's lecture, interactive lecture, was very useful. Talk about that a little bit. Talk about what controlled AI is, and one format of that is called the IVO. Talk about interactive videos, and then finally talk about this technology in extended reality or virtual reality and augmented reality as well. At any point, please just stop me if there's something that piques your interest, so we can focus on that as well. And I'll also give a demo of how this technology is utilized and can help connect with your audience. I don't know if anyone's read this Brian Christian book on the alignment problem. This is one of the essential issues with large language models. They have to be trained, they have to be aligned in a certain value set, which is fantastic. But are those value sets your value sets? Not so sure. This is why the dilemma of what is actually considered the truth comes up. Ideally, if you had a language model for every single human being that had its data set and would understand your set of values, then you have a generative AI tool that is perfectly in tune with what you want. But keep in mind, that tool's got to be updated. So, you know, I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago. My values have changed. That has to be taken into account. And then it has to be maintained over time with some sort of a control mechanism to make sure that it's not drifting off, amplifying biases, on and on. So this is a fantastic book. If you haven't read it or listened to it, I highly recommend it. The point that comes across is that language models, even though, you know, they can be harmful and infactual and come up with errors, cannot have a clear endpoint saying now you're completely tuned to go out into the real world. They'll continually need to be tuned over time because of more data, because of drift bias, because of drift as well. So that's one of the things. It's not a closed loop. It's an open linear system that generates output. And other things that have been talked about, lack of transparency is one. We don't know exactly how they work. There are some layers in there that are hidden from everybody. The data in there is also not the cleanest data. And also the issue is that when it does give a response and you want an explanation of the response, it's difficult to obtain that. Why did you say what you said? That is still not been figured out. And I challenge anyone to find the scientist that can tell you exactly how neural networks work and what where their biases and hallucinations exactly come from. So what we've done is created a system called controlled AI. CAI, in contrast to GAI, is a layer of software that allows for you to have precise control over the content, maintain your authority and agency over the content, meantime be able to update it as you please, and then connect with your audience in a variety of multimedia modalities that I will share with you. So unique content, right? This lecture, your lectures, your PowerPoints, put into a software system. The highest solution is one of them. It's one of the few that I'm aware of. And the output is unique, verified, interactive content with analytics. Now, that content could be a video, it could be a variety of other things that I'll show you. But that layer that filters this and acts as a guardrail and a safety net. So what you're talking to your audience, you maintain your authority, agency, and safety over the content. And that is what we consider to be controlled AI. One format of this is called the IVO. This is our first iteration. And this is much like you have in this type of a setting, I suppose, when someone stands in a lecture hall. This is a virtual rendered human, and then gives a presentation on a presenter screen. And based on that presentation, you can control the presentation and also interact, ask questions, and the answers that are curated are the answers that are created by the author. You can tune every component of this presentation, including the virtual human, the gesturing, the dress, the way they speak, the voice, in addition to the content, and also how you deliver it as well. So I wanted to, at this point, maybe pause and see if anyone has questions and give a little demo on how the IVO works, and then jump back into the lecture to go to the next step. So just gonna, let's see here, stop sharing and go to a different screen. And while I'm doing that, see if anyone, actually I can just bounce over, so if anyone has any questions.
Well, I have a comment and a question. This has been fantastic so far, absolutely fantastic. My question is on the avatar. So if you're I'm using this product, I can change the avatar, or is that on your end as the producer of it?
Yeah, so fantastic. Before I even show you the demo, I'm going to go one step back and show you the tooling that we have for this. So can you guys see this page?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is Haya IVO Studio. There's the home page there. You have standard buttons to create projects, ability to share analytics, AI tools, and then as admin tools as well. You can create projects here, and those projects involve presentations, AI topics, quizzes, and forms. All of these different layers can be mixed and matched together, and that presentation output in its format can be messaged with different avatars. So you can have a version of this that has a man avatar with a lab coat, a female avatar with a different voice. So you can do all of that when you're actually sending it out. In the presentation as well, you can change the avatar. The only exception there is you can't go from a man to a woman presentation because of the speech component of that. So if you've mailed out a male avatar, then it winds up being a variation of that male avatar. I actually made one for Dr. Gatewood here. This is a presentation based on his prior lecture here, that PowerPoint lecture that you had given on transforming healthcare. I reverse engineered that into an IVO with an AI layer on it, and it was all done in this platform. The presentation modules that are created can be dropped and dragged right onto the screen here. So just drop and drag what you want. And then you can add AI layers onto it as well. And you can do multiple AI layers. So you can have one for Dr. Gatewood's personality, in addition, one for his content of his lecture. So that way you can ask him what's his favorite hobby or what did his daughter do, and the character can give you those details if you choose to as well. So the AI can be layered, and then the presentation timeline here, which will make more sense when you look at the actual output, can also be tuned in a variety of ways. So your content library, your timeline, and then you go to publish, and the output winds up being a URL, QR code, embedding, any sort of a web app output that you want, you can get from this. So the user doesn't have to download anything. It can be embedded within your website. And then if you change anything on this end, you still have that front-facing output on the user side. So as a patient, I don't have to update, download anything. I just passively view it and then actively interact with the system, while the author on the back end can update continually, and the updates are given instantaneously. The other component of this is going to be your analytics section. So you have rich analytics behind the scenes here, which tell you not only your presentation time, your actual, here it comes, your actual, sorry, just too many things running right now. Your presentation, average viewing time, questions asked, over timeline, what that looks like. This is for Dr. Gatewood, 16 sessions so far to your lecture. All of them have probably been me kind of refining and updating it. You can also look at the questions asked that weren't answered. So a lot of detail can be gleaned from this right here. So questions asked, sorry, let me just show you here. The timeline, who looked at what, where, when, and how. The questions that were asked, the most answered, most unanswered, percent of questions answered. You can update your system based on the ones that you didn't actually catch initially, so you can have more questions. The presentation, the most skipped slide, the most repeated slide. Quizzes, if you have a quiz in there, it'll give you a quiz answer, and then messaging as well can be done through this. That includes forms. So if you have a survey, all that information is here, and it can all be exported. So rich analytics behind a tool that is highly flexible and can give you an output that is very interactive. So I'm just going to run this here real quick, and then this is Dr. Gatewood's lecture. So I'll show you how I reverse engineered that using ChatGPT in a second. But I just want to run this to give you a flavor of how this looks. Is the sound playing, by the way? Did I pick that right or no?
No.
No. So I got sorry, I keep forgetting. I got to share with sound. John's the only one to remember to actually unmute. So since we skipped the first part of the introduction, I'm just going to relaunch this real quick. Oh, by the way, this is Dr. Gatewood. If you go to hightopics.com and put in the code Gatewood, you get to this presentation. So, and we'll share it with you afterwards. I didn't have time to completely clean it up. The system allows you to do a lot of different things like correct pronunciation, create pauses, all of that. Animations can be customized as well. I didn't really get into that part of it. So when you hear her speak, she's actually going to be off on her pauses. You can incorporate a pause in between those sentences to create more of a natural feel. So here we go.
Well, I'm sure it needed a lot of cleaning up.
Hello, I'm Dr. Robert Gatewood's digital assistant. Today, we're discussing a crucial shift in medical education for the 21st century. We're looking at it from 3 perspectives: the broad systemic changes. This is the 10,000 feet view, institutional reforms. In medical schools, this is the rooftop view, and the direct impact on community health. This is called the street level view.
So I'm going to pause her. So a couple of things you noticed that she went 3, and the reason she went 3 is because that is the AI picking up the number 3 in the text, and the animation correlates with that. We've trained her to do certain animations based on certain common words. So she can go like me, you, and then you could add animations too, eye rolls, anything you want to make her more animated that can be added in the timeline. So she can be fully animated, and she can be also paused. The other thing that happened was you notice that she didn't pause when she was talking about some of these things. She just needed a little bit of pause between about integrating in that first sentence. And I didn't put that in last night, but you can just go in there and say, pause on this word for 0.2 milliseconds, and she'll pause and give it a more natural tone as well. The comments here were reverse engineered through ChatGPT. So what I did is I took the slide, cut it, pasted it into chat, and said, tell me what this slide says. And that's the text I got. And then I imported that PowerPoint slide into the Highest Studio and got this presentation. So she could
It's
go
about
on
integrating new technologies, and this slide illustrates our hub and spoke model in medical education. Here we have the K-LIDA health hybrid model.
Now you heard her say K-LIDA, right? And that's a mispronunciation. You can go in there and also correct the pronunciation as well. You highlight the word and then say, phonetically spell it out. So instead of K-LIDA, she says K-LIDA. And that can be done on an instant throughout the whole system. She learns to say K-LIDA like that as well. But this is all the slides, and I wasn't at the lecture. I didn't listen to this particular lecture. Reverse engineered the PowerPoint, fed it into the system, and this is what we have. So you see the basic control buttons on the bottom. Play. You can go back, fast forward to a different chapter, close caption. If you don't want to look at your character, she can be gone. She can also be programmed not to be there. It can just be a pure slide without any sort of a character behind it. That can be programmed in as well. And then you can go to your chapters as well. Here, this one only has 1 chapter, but I'll show you another one with a lot of different chapters as well. You also have the claim to fame here, the microphone button, so you can ask a question. You can type your question in, use the speaker, or pick from pre-populated questions. These questions basically were created through ChatGPT. Take the PowerPoint, reverse engineer through chat to give you the script, take the script, give it to chat, and tell me, give me question and answer sets from this text, and then import all of that into the system. And now you have a set of questions that go along with it too. So let's ask a question. Can you describe
The program includes anatomy, clinical rotation, CPM-1, and pharmacokinetics, each representing a specialized area of the medical curriculum.
Now, if you don't like, I put Einstein's picture there because I love Dr. Gatewood. I figured he deserved a good representative for himself, right? If you don't like the answer, you can change that. And it doesn't have to be a static picture. It could be an actual video as the answer. I didn't have a video of him, but we can create a synthetic video, a real video as the answer to present. In addition to that, you can have another one of these sessions embedded in there, and I'll show you what that looks like. Before I go to the next one, I'm going to pause and see if there's any questions because there's a lot of information just loaded in there.
I do have a question. I don't know when the right time to ask it is.
Right
but
now.
In your presentation, I'd love to have your point of view on this versus the AI chat boxes that are being created specifically for mental health, if you have any experience.
Yeah, so all those chatbots, first of all, when you're looking at those interactive chatbots, there is no control layer in there, right? So the prompt is going to give you the output. And the output could be varied depending on what you say. So if you ask a certain way, then the prompt is going to come back a different to you. I don't know if you know of a company called Wobots. They're actually up in Palo Alto. They're doing a clinical trial using AI. But what they're using it for is for the intake part of it, understanding the intent of the user. So if I'm on the phone with a chatbot and I sound really frantic, the AI analyzes my voice and said, this guy's on the brink of, not being well. Why don't we send him to suicide prevention line, right? Or the output is to a certain way. So we use that AI layer on the intake side to understand the questions, but the output side is completely controlled by your narrative. So any chatbot that doesn't have an output control layer, I'd worry about. And I think in mental health, a lot of it is now being used maybe for low-level care coordination or some appointment scheduling. But to think that you can replace an actual human with a generative AI tool is not something that's going to happen in 2024, and it's not something that's going to happen for at least another 5 to 10 years. We cannot simply be replaced as humans because there's so many other factors that go in for us to understand the person in front of us. We can certainly be augmented for low-level tasks such as helping people figure out their insurance or helping people or messaging to people about their chronic health conditions. Or in this instance, I'm going to show you helping African-American women understand breast cancer screening and giving them resources. So controlled AI is that layer that allows you to have this interactivity and control without you going to OpenAI and spending $2.5 million training your own language model. I hope that helps answer that question. This particular one was developed at University of Buffalo Public Health Department. The character was developed in a way that resonated with their audience. Every component, including the voice, the dress, the hair, all of that. And there's some cool navigations tool in there that allow the user to get to resources. In addition to that, it's designed in a storytelling fashion. She is a breast cancer survivor telling you her story and how she wants her daughters to be cognizant of this condition and go get screening so they don't have the same health conditions that she had to face.
Hello, I'm Michelle, and I have important information to share with you about breast cancer screening. Please make sure your device is not in silent mode. Please watch this video till the end to complete the survey and receive your gift card. Now, would you like to know how to get tested for breast cancer in the Buffalo area?
So that whole gift card is the incentive to allow the user to give them a little incentive. And then this is a branching point in logic. You can hear about her experience, or you can go to local resources. And I can share this code with you if you want to play around with it. But I'm just going to go to local resources because, I don't want to hear about breast cancer. I just want to find out where to get resources.
I found out Buffalo has many resources to help you get tested and meet all your needs, like finding a place that provides mammograms for women without insurance, that is open after work hours and on weekends, and that is easy to reach by bus. Luckily, I found this interactive map with all the information I was looking for. You just click on the pin anywhere on the map for convenient locations near you, then it will show you places with all sorts of helpful information, including information about clinics and testing centers that accept uninsured patients and that are open late and on weekends, as well as how to get there. When you find the one that fits your needs, you can click on the arrow icon to map out your trip. You can even use the Google Maps features to evaluate traffic and routes. Click here if you'd like to start looking for screening locations.
So I click there and it's going to take me to these resources. My question is, are you seeing the resource page or are you seeing her right now?
Resource page.
Yeah,
The resource page. So there it is, right? And it just tells you how to use the map, go to the resource page and, you know, primary care, mammogram locations, on and on, right? So it acts as that care coordinator that gets 150 grand a year, at least in California, to do that type of work, and they're not always successful. It augments the reach of that care coordinator, and then you can go back into the session. You can ask questions. This is the chapter section here, right? What happened to me is her story, on and on. So this is our iteration of our IVR, our avatar-based technology. I think I showed you High Studio as well. I know it's a lot of information, but I kind of wanted to continue to show you the video-based solution. In that moment, maybe while we're doing that, if there are any questions, please ask away.
Ed, yes. How does one, a patient in the community learn about this so that they can utilize it?
Yes. So since it's a web app, it can be messaged out in a variety of ways. I think social media may be challenging, but imagine you're an insurance company, right? You actually know who you want to bring in for breast cancer screening. And the reason is that it's connected to your Medi-Cal star ratings and on and on. So you can directly message this out to the constituents within that community through your traditional messaging. In addition to that community outreach, so you can put a QR code on a pamphlet. You can go by, community centers, health churches, health fairs, and start the messaging. But this is not the replacement. This is the augmentation of that one person that you have in that clinic that really cares, that doesn't have 24 hours a day and doesn't have the ability to go and teach and reteach and reteach. I mean, how many times have we seen a patient roll their eyes when we walk in and ask them the same set of questions, right? So it's that repetition that is now being condensed in a format that is, that is tunable, has analytics behind it. Visually, you can really get to how you want to how to present that, on and on. So the output is digital in format, but can also be placed onto traditional literature as well. As a matter of fact, one of the projects we're doing at Kaiser is on drain management. The drains that for surgery, we're just attaching a QR code to the drain and sending the patient home with it. So anytime they have a question, they just point their phone. And the nurse, the education that is involved there, she's not walking in with like 10 pieces of paper. She's just, explaining to them, giving that to the mom, the dad, the cousin, the uncle, the trauma patient as well. But it's so a variety of ways. You think you can disperse it, right? We also are aware that that medium is not the only medium to communicate with patients. You can actually have lectures. This is the lecture that was given here some time ago.
So lecture 6 out there, right?
The Zoom recording of it. Our QVO, this is going to be changed in about 4 days. Our QVO is our question-based video solution. So I download this 55-minute lecture into the system, and then I was able to get the insights in here, including, the actual keywords that were used, and I also have a transcript from this. This transcript was then imported into the system in a question and answer format. I'm going to have to move this up here, but the Q&A here was already imported based on the content of this presentation. And this video is not interactive. The Ask Me button allows you to do that. So when I go to view mode, it plays the video.
It's a little after 6 out there, right?
Through the Insights button, you can jump to certain sections if you want. But the key is you can ask questions, right? And the questions can be just straight responses. They can be videos, or they can be static slides as well. And these questions were curated based on the script and nothing else. So the knowledge base that's being dispensed is contained. It's not going out to the internet to give an answer. So what AI models developed by Anthropic, right? It queries.
Claude AI is developed by Anthropic.
Right. So it gives the answer. Now let's ask a question that it doesn't know, right? How much is pizza, right? I mean, you ask it, this is to the question about these other AI models, right? You ask it, even it's highly tuned, medical based data set, you ask it the price of pizza, it will have an answer for you, right?
I'm not sure about that, but perhaps one of these questions might help.
So it falls back to the question set. It says, you know what? I don't really know because you didn't teach me, right? So it's not like me. Humans are like generative AI. They say stuff regardless, right? You have a conversation with a total stranger. Who's going to win the election? Oh, I think, Clinton's going to win. Based on what, right? So this actually stops you and goes, nah, I don't know. One of these matches it? No. You asked me about pizza. Do you want a link for a chat bot? So we give you that language model exit as well. So you want to go to OpenAI, you want to go Anthropic, that can be tuned in here. So you have the ability to go beyond that knowledge set. And, you get a warning saying, are you going to ChatGPT? And that will give you the answer there. But it allows you to go beyond that data set as well. So we obviously won't belabor the point, but you can see how this video is made interactive. And in addition to that, we're able to get insights into the content. Facial recognition is part of it. You can display this or not display it, but these keywords as well. When was Florida talked about? Twice in that presentation, and it goes straight to that part of the presentation when Florida was discussed. So it's a really good way of getting to where you want in a large knowledge base that's video based, and then also creating interactivity. Same analytics is behind it. Any questions not captured will also be automatically added as a notification to you, so you can add them to the system. I'm just going to pause here and see if anyone's got any questions about this iteration of the interactivity.
I think I know the answer to this question, but you can embed videos in here from other sources, sorts of things as well. Oh my goodness. That is super cool.
I wanted to impress you by showing your own lectures, but our good Dr. Schweitzberg, who is at University of Buffalo, has a great video on tricks and tips for surgery. And the responses are video response. Some of the responses are video responses, and some of them are static photos as well. So in here, what are the pearls of using Indocin Green, right? So you can ask that question, and then the response is going to be his response. Oh, missed it.
Efforts are made to preserve structures like lymphatics or small arteries, unless necessary to maintain blood supply.
By the way, that was an AI-generated picture there as a kind of a space saver.
As I scan the operative field, it is important to take note of Rovier's sulcus.
Right, so that response there was his video response from the content here. You can also put synthetic media in there. We've actually done that very readily, where it's a synthesia video or it's a hyper-realistic video. Eventually, these two systems are going to merge into one for us, where you're going to have the avatars and the synthetic media as part of the responses for the video-based product as well. So to answer the question, yeah, videos can be answered. Something like this took me about 30 minutes. I'm not the expert on the topic and I didn't listen to the whole lecture, but I created 30 minutes of effort to create one of these, about 2 hours to create that Dr. Gatewood presentation based on his PowerPoints without knowing the knowledge base at all. Looks like there's some stuff in the chat. Are you able to review, edit, and generate responses? Yes. And there's a very long one. Are you in development chatbots like one below, Martin's the influential American?
That's okay. It was my question.
Yeah, it was, yeah. Sorry, yeah. Thanks. I wasn't paying attention. I have so many things opened and I wasn't focusing on the chats there.
I noticed 2 very famous psychologists that recently had chatbots made. But I
Yes.
think it's controlled because it's only their lectures and only their writings.
Yes, so there's a couple of things. One is with a system like that, it winds up being a very narrow system, right? Because it just winds up being the chat for bot for that particular person. And it winds up giving answers that are very I don't want to use the word generic, but it winds up not giving you that nuanced answer. And then to update your responses. So let's say as a psychologist, I change my practice pattern for a certain thing in about a year. How do you go in a chatbot and do that? Because it's going based on your data set and your preferences, right? So it queries your mind. It can give you a response, but it can't be tuned to this level. Again, I'm not putting down chatbots. I think they're great. I think they're good for intake, for input data analysis. That's what we use it for. But we want to control the output as well. So, you can see I use a lot of ChatGPT here just to create content, unique content, but I use the system to layer that in as well. I know I'm talking a lot, but we talked about the QVO, the video-based product, the QVO, the IVO, and then this character can also be implemented in augmented reality. And I think in augmented reality, there's going to be a lot of uses. That's our push for this coming years to implement in augmented reality. The idea here is not just to have it as a virtual lecture like you see with this Vision Pro, but the idea is to create simulations in virtual reality and augmented reality for conversational training. So this would be one particular example. I'm just going to play this video. So this is a hospital waiting area, and it's kind of panning in VR. This is recorded VR, by the way. So it's not the actual VR experience. I can show you that, but it's kind of a recording. And as a proof of concept, we did this to see if we can implement the characters in 3D, and the system, since it's designed with 3D technology behind it, can be in VR. And I made up this fake character that asks the question from a young medical student or young trainee.
Hi, doctor. My name is Michelle Thompson. I was at work, and someone called me from the hospital, and they said my daughter is here. Her name is Sarah Thompson. Is she here? Can you tell me about her? She is 8 years old and was at my sister's house swimming.
So this may not be the ideal way of presenting this data, but imagine that conversation that's being had every single day in ERs between young clinicians and patients, and they had no practice in giving the response. And this is what happens. Someone comes up to you, asks you a question, you have some clinical data, and you have to respond. And if it's your first time, you're going to fumble. And if it's your 10th time, you're still going to fumble, but you're going to be better than that first time. So how do you practice that in a real world environment? Our push for simulation conversational training is to implement this technology in virtual reality, so you can have those conversations. Then the language model can look at your response, give an empathy score to it, and the professor can give you the same. And you now have a real life standard based on the language model's assessment of your verbiage, tonality, delivery, and pace. And you also have the expertise in front of you going, you know what? You said your daughter's dead, and that's not the best way of brain dead. That's not the best use of terminology. So it's the combination of high tech, high touch, and the ability to continue practicing those conversations that are very difficult using free-flowing language models. And I think this is a really good way of implementing those language models, because the content of the conversation, the factual accuracy of the conversation may not be as relevant as the ability to deliver the tonality, the pace of the speech. So we've all been in doctor's office when the doc is talking at 1,000 miles an hour, no one's understanding him or her, and the whole goal is for that visit to be over in 7 minutes so he or she can get on to the next sick patient. So how do you pace that? How do you create a model where it's close to reality enough where you get to practice these things without creating harm? And by the way, as far as harm reduction goes, that conversation, you tell that mom your kid's brain dead, that may live in her brain for the rest of her life. That will live in her brain for the rest of her life. And it can amplify the harm that has been brought on by the trauma that has occurred in front of her. So harm reduction would be really one of the ways of trying to get ahead of this this ability to teach conversations. This other video is going to show you this platform that we have, the HiVio platform, and this is in VR. You see the standard format of it, but what you do is you actually can step into the conversation. This is what it looks like when you step into that conversation. You can walk behind the character, you can really get close up, and you get that in real world effect as well. And this is a very old iteration, so you know it's going to look a lot better than this. This is probably, I would say, at least a year and a half old as technology. So it's going to look a lot better when we implement this. And yeah,
Stan, you've had your hand up for a while.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I don't have my presenter screen on, so I'm going to stop talking for now and just take questions. I know I've been talking a lot. Sorry.
Yeah. This is wonderful. Am I remembering right that you had something with informed consent with the Department of Surgery? And if you did, how did that evolve? Because I think that's an incredibly important use of this.
Right. So the work that was done at University of Buffalo and informed consent is different than this. We actually have our own project initiated at Oregon Health Science University in the pediatric population for craniosynostosis. So Dr. Wolfsinkel, who's one of our plastic surgeon advisors, started a trial there. 20 patients, 10 are going to get traditional education, which is a 2-day visit. And the other ones are going to get digital IVO education and then just come in for the consent. So absolutely right to get informed consent, but this is the process. Here's the module. You as a clinician are going to know if they looked at it, what their questions were, all of that. When you walk into the room, the conversation is not going to be, let's start from the beginning. The conversation is going to be empathetic, asking them how they're doing, and in there saying, how else can I help you? What other questions do you have before we get your consent? So it's the lead up to consent, and 100% I agree with you, but we don't pretend that a machine is going to get consent for you. It's just going to deliver the goods, and then you and I will fill in the gaps for what they didn't, but 100%. So that data is going to come out probably in about 3 months from now. They just finished the control arm, and now they're doing the intervention as we go forward. And craniosynostosis, as you know, I mean, that's like, talk about high stress situation for a mom, right? Who is trying to have a pleasant journey. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the value I see it is taking up to that point where, you come back in, you're empathetic, and then you ask them, tell me what you heard.
Yes.
Can you explain the procedure, the risks and the benefits that you heard?
That's right. Exactly. And so you can put quizzes in there to also assess knowledge base. I didn't show you that component. It actually gives you the response that you want when they get it wrong, and it gives you it confirms the correctness as well. So absolutely. But That's just one use case. Care management, screening tool, standard patient education, all of that. I mean, you think of yourself as a multi-talented individual who does lots of things all day, and that all those components can be amplified. So not just, I just told you about your upper respiratory tract infection, but absolutely, like, you know, you have a bronchoscopy today, right? I mean, you know, that 1 o'clock appointment is looming in your head all day, and someone's going to pull you in clinic for some sick kid, and you're going to rush up there and you're going to be like, right? Imagine if you were talking to that patient and you go up there knowing that they had the information. That's what it did for my practice when I had 95-year-olds in front of me going, okay, you're empathetic and I can explain this to my kid through this technology. I don't have to, you know, rush you out of here. So yeah, absolutely. Time scaling technology.
Hey, Dad. I if I could, I'm gonna put John on the spot. You began your fantastic presentation saying that students don't like to be put on the spot, but John is an exceptional student and he doesn't mind getting questions. So, and I know that John and I have talked about this. How does this what was presented today resonate with you and say your colleagues in medical school as far as learning opportunities? What can you comment from a student's perspective?
Yes, thank you. This was a really an incredible presentation and really insightful. I have been taking some notes throughout the presentation, so I'm going to reference those quickly. From a learning standpoint, there's one big thing that I don't think our lecturers tend to look at, and that is double speed or a greater than 1x speed option. Dr. Gatewood has taught me a lot about the evolution of medical knowledge throughout time, how it's doubling, I think, every 73 days now. And one of the things that I would say a large percentage of my cohort does is watch our in-house content at double speed or watch third-party resources at double speed. I mean, if you look at a copy of First Aid from 2008 and then 2018, I mean, it's almost doubled. So time is a big crunch. And I do think there's something to be said about this increased interactivity, because just like when you are in your third year and you're going throughout residency, doing something is going to have a lot better efficiency in terms of what you're retaining from that as opposed to just reading. So there probably is a trade-off there, but I would be curious to see if there's an ability to have this at an increased speed.
Yeah. Yeah, great question, by the way. So the video player in there is actually called Theo Player. So it does all the functionalities that a regular video player does. But we understand that double speed problem, and our insights is our solution to it. For instance, Dr. Gatewood's lecture, you want to find out about a particular component, right? And in your mind's like, yeah, I got to listen to the whole thing. Do I want to double speed this, or do I want to query the content to get to that? The other component is his lecture, the data set in there could be beyond the transcript. So he can put his questions and answer sets in there for a particular scientific study or a particular website on, and all that can be scraped and contained in there. So when I do a lecture, I think about the audience, right? And let's say the audience is pre-med to attending surgeon, right? So how do I get something that's useful for the pre-med student and also the experienced attending? It's hard, right? Because if I'm sitting there going carpal tunnel is, right? And then the other guy is like, what? I want to hear about triple revision carpal tunnel and brachial plexus palsy. Very challenging. So the ability to query and interact with a data set allows something to be gained by the novice and also something to be gained by the super expert. So this is beyond double speed. I think double speed is your little paddle as you're trying to swim upstream, but this is like your turbojet, get you to the point, and now you know that this point was emphasized in the lecture. Not everything that we say is relevant to your particular knowledge set in the lecture. But excellent question. So that is what we're getting at. The other component is the whole comment section, right? We don't allow for comments. We allow for questions, because comments are you standing and saying something. Questions is you being introspective and really being curious and thinking internally about the content presented. And my worst fear in any lecture is if I give it and no one has questions, I'm like, oh boy, like they all fell asleep, no one listened to it. So it's really to create more curiosity and insightfulness in the interaction as well. And I see a few hands up here.
Oh.
Yes, Dr.
I don't want to. I don't know if you've seen this book.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. He's from Southern California. Used to be.
Yes, San Diego.
He's used to be the chief of cardiology at Cleveland Clinic.
Yes.
And this
Yes.
amazing was published in 2019.
Yes.
I'm bringing this up because to ask Archana one of the points that Eric Topol makes in this book is that actually this technology is going to make it much more important. And as you've been saying all along, the communication skills with patients. So getting to really know your patient, to communicating with them, showing that empathy, getting a great physical examination is going to be key to using AI in medicine. It's same thing with an EMR, garbage in, garbage out. Same thing with AI, garbage in, garbage out.
100%.
This is a fantastic book. So Archie, this really, even though we're advancing on a technology standpoint, it's going to be even more important. Your course on humanism in medicine is going to be absolutely key.
100%.
And so I'm just giving you a plug, and I want to hear maybe what you might have to say about all this. And I know that you also do a lot of the simulation studies. And how do you see this application working? Because this is more, it's not actually in a simulation lab. It could be in your living room or, dining room, bedroom, whatever.
Thanks, Dr. Gatewood. And thank you for the presentation, which was just fascinating. I just feel one of the things that this can help us in is sort of move away from that mentality of taking care of patients to truly caring for patients. And that shift, this is something that is going to be really helpful. And I feel it's something that, as you said, with the knowledge exploding, our emphasis still is on that prescriptive teaching models, when in reality, we forget the human being that we are teaching. We forget the wholeness of the individual and all that they bring into the mix. The way you started, kind of was my hook in terms of how different iterations of our individuality come with the experiences that we gain. And that's the reason why the human is still important. I'll just give you an example. Recently, the curriculum that I had created along with obviously Dr. Gatewood, Dr. Sheehan, Dr. Farstein, and input from people here, was sort of revised using curriculum that was from all other institutions and put into ChatGPT and use ChatGPT to come up with the objectives. And what we saw in that was that one of the big things missing was some of the verbiage was awesome because it was all about patient-centered care, which I had an objection to because it should be people-centered care rather than, the entity of patient. But what was missing there was the student perspective, because ignoring the fact that the student needs to be whole before they can practice. And I feel some of the tools that you have, including the feedback on empathy and tonality, and it's something that is so valuable and so needed. And that feedback, because if it is, and I don't know, I would love to see the kind of feedback that comes from it, because and the comparison with the feedback given by a human. It's, I mean, again, the possibilities are endless. I'm so excited about the field, and I'm sorry I'm going on and on. You can understand I'm passionate about the subject, and I don't know if I've gone off track now.
Well,
So I'll mute
Archana,
myself.
I share your passion. By the way, I can't tell you how many young residents I've seen. I remember in a stairwell, surgical resident, top of class, crying on a Tuesday at 10 a.m. Just crying, like, like I failed. Why are you crying? Like, what did I do that you're crying, right? And I didn't even, like, I happened to go downstairs and I see her, right? Or him. So office hours should not be about what are your questions? 100%. It should be like, what is going on in your world, young mind? We're missing that as educators, and we're failing them. Turns out she was upset because didn't do a reduction properly and feels like she hurt the patient, and the patient's going to have a bad outcome, and someone's going to get mad at her, on and on. And all I did was just ask her what's wrong, right? That would have never happened if I didn't walk down that stairwell. And it still doesn't happen today, where the young minds are sitting there going, when is it going to be over? When is he going to stop talking? And when is he going to actually ask me, am I depressed? Do I really want to be a medical student? Should I do residency? Right? So 100%. And that same application of us regurgitating garbage to our patients about clinical outcomes and risk factors for surgery and death rates, they don't give a hoot. All they care about is that I'm there to care for them. Are you going to be there Saturday night, 2 a.m. if I'm having an issue, right? But we missed the boat. Now we're these cogs in the machine, spitting out information, spitting information into the EHR. I didn't put my EHR slides up for you because I thought it was too much, but too angry. But and we failed. So yeah, we do need that transformation. And then Dr. Gatewood, so we did a webinar with Eric Topol. Armin can share that with you. This was through WebMD, which is our exclusive partner. And really interesting to hear his narrative about AI and human in the loop. Jesse Reinfeld, also president of AMA, was on there, and a couple other people. So these are stakeholders that are thought leaders. And I read his book in 2019 when we started with Haya in 2018, 17. And it's really inspired me to continue pursue this path because I think he's right. He's 100% right. And the first chapter tells you what happened to him as a young individual when the orthopedist walked in and beat him up. Yeah. He's like an old, he's a very mature adult still talking about that trauma, right? So 100%, I think we're all aligned on that. Yeah. So thanks for sharing that.
Folks, thank you so much. I was kicked off here. I'm in the internet has been a little shaky down here because I think Nashville doesn't like cold. So, but it's I'm through a hotspot. Dr. Giassi, this has just been absolutely extraordinary. And what we might do is invite you back for a replay because I'm getting the nods here. And thank you so much for getting up so early out there. We have another colleague out your way, Dr. Larry Kiley, who's probably just up a bit north from you, who is also up and been with us early. So just a couple of things, and then we'll kind of wrap here. I have scheduled for our next meeting February 22nd. And I just want to thank you all for that hiatus we had over the holidays. And just sitting here is just been such a this is so exciting and so extraordinary, not only for work in medical education, but for the work in creativity that we're doing. It's just got such a blend over. So mark your calendars for February 22nd. And so also just to let you know, I think I sent out an information to you about the 3-day applied creative problem solving course that I'm teaching again at the Roycroft. And so Archana and Michael and Robert and Ken were at that. So that's coming up in April. So any other final things before we leave today? Thank you once again so much. We're probably going to check your calendar for the 22nd if you might be available. This was just absolutely wow. You know, like we said before, we never quite know where this is going to go, and this is really extraordinary where we've gone. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
Armin's so great to meet you. Robert, yes, Hart here from Archina. Go ahead, Robert. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to end with a quote that probably I'm sure Ed knows. It's by Sir William Osler, who once said, "A good physician treats the disease. The great physician treats the patient with disease." And this is exactly what I think you were urging us to do all morning. So thank you so much. This was absolutely fantastic. Loved it.
Thank you. And it goes along so much with Archna, the work that you're doing as with humanism education, the work we're doing infusing creativity into that. This is such a wonderful, wonderful blend. So if you wouldn't put a tentative on your February 22nd, if we might indulge you for that again as well. So Armin, you're local. Let's get together, have a cup of coffee.
Would love to.
Yeah. And Michael, good skiing.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope you get back home, Roger. We miss you.
Well, thank you. I feel missed. So, but hey, you know, it's been 9 days in a nice hotel, and you know, it's been, yeah, it's not bad. I caught up on stuff. I take naps, you know. So,
Yeah, the bed at home is always better.
what's that? Yeah, home's
I said
always better.
that bed at home is always.
It sure is. It sure is.
It's always good for your back to. But yeah.
So, thank you all so
thank-
much, very much. So I really, really, really appreciate this, and we'll look at February 22nd, and just welcome to the Buffalo Society for Creativity and Medical Education. You're now official members, and so just thank you all so very much. So
it's been very rewarding. Get all this. It's been great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks for your time. Thanks for letting me.
Thank you for your time and
on
for getting up so early. Thank you so much.
No, it's great. I went for a run before this, so it just fired me up for the day.
Well, good. It's dark out there.
John's getting ready to hop on his Peloton.
Yeah.